You guys are here, okay. What's up, guys? Sorry, I missed you. Walked right by. We are jumping right into chapter 6 today. We talked about some time stuff yesterday, but let's get right into chapter 6. So, when it comes to the time stuff, we talked about how there's a 7-year tribulation period, that's what chapter 6 through 19-ish is. And then there's some stuff after that. But there's a distinct middle in that 7-year period where at the temple there's what's described in Daniel 9, an abomination that causes desolation. So that kind of clues me in to say all the bad stuff is happening halfway through the tribulation. That this 3.5 years in the first half is building up to it. But the bad stuff doesn't start until that 3.5 year mark. And with that idea, a lot of people think that in the first 3.5 years, it's the first 2 verses of chapter 6. And then the second half is the rest of this book, with exception of the last few chapters, which is kind of crazy. 2 verses and then like 500 verses. Maybe not that much. And we understand that the first half is kind of peaceful and it's a preparation. The second half is bad stuff. So let's read. In verse 1, I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures, the big wing eye guys. He said in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So a lot of people think that those 2 verses, that's the first half of it. So there's the Antichrist, which we'll talk about a little bit later in chapter 13 too. And they are using these first 2 verses, they're preparing. They're building up their nation. They're trying to find solutions in the world. Maybe bring peace to the Middle East. And maybe do a lot of things to unite opposite political sides that day in day they're just getting more and more distant, more extreme every single day. And they're going to be seen to the world likely as a pretty good person that's unifying the world and is changing the world. And we notice they're on a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. Usually, when we talk about bows, you say, "Oh, I got bow and arrow. I got some bows and arrows." He's just got a bow, though. I don't think he has any arrows. So it's saying that he is going out and conquesting, but not starting wars and violently taking over countries like we typically see in conquest. So he's just conquering the world, basically by peace. And then we see in verse 3 where some people think that the second half starts in verse 3. It says, when the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come." And then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and make people kill each other with a large sword. So it's right there. They're taking away peace and killing each other. That sounds a lot like abomination. That would cause desolation. And then we read with the third seal, not the second, the third seal, there's going to be a lot of famine and kind of economic destruction. How it says in verse 6 that 2 pounds of wheat will cost an entire day's wage, and 6 pounds of barley for an entire day's wage. But the stuff that's reserved for the rich people, like oil and wine, they're not changed at all. They're not touched. So the important stuff like wheat, like 2 pounds of wheat, that's not very much. Like in today's money, like it'd be like spending $100 on 2 loaves of bread. And it's just crazy. But this is some of the abomination stuff. And then we go down to the fourth seal, and it's a lot more generalized. It says the rider's name was Death, and Hades, and was following close behind. Hades was following close behind. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. So they killed a fourth of the people on this earth. That's like almost 2 billion people. That's a lot of people. That doesn't sound really peaceful to me. That sounds kind of abominant. And there's just this insane destruction in these first 4 seals. And we can see that this is the start of God's wrath. That just like it was in the time of Noah, when the world was wicked, they needed change. So they brought a great flood and pretty much restarted. But this time he's not restarting. He's not taking water to the earth and cleansing the earth with the water. He's taking fire to the earth and he's destroying it once and for all. And it's just crazy to think about it, how so many people will die even in the 4th seal. We're a fourth of the way through this book and there's already almost 2 billion people dying. This is crazy. But then we can look into the 5th seal, and we're actually looking back up into heaven. So the first 4 seals, it's Jesus peels the seal off, and there's a corresponding action on the earth. But when we look in the 5th seal, there's a corresponding action in heaven, and we can see the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and their testimony that they had maintained. But we already know that the rapture happened, and that can't be the people from the church age, so this has to be the tribulation saints in the 5th seal. And so, 3.5 years at least has passed at this point, and of course there's going to be a lot of people that have turned to Christianity or weren't fully Christian at the time of the rapture and really delve into it and fully became Christian. And the ones that are killed for their faith, that's right here. That's what they're talking about. And they're wanting vengeance. They're saying in verse 10, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" And they're just told to wait. They're given some white robes, like we saw in chapter 3, and they're just told to wait, because more suffering is going to happen. And that final time is not going to happen yet. It's also a big reason of why all this stuff has not happened yet, why Jesus has not come yet, because he wants more people to be saved. And then we can look into the last seal, and it's just total destruction, change, really abomination. And it says there's a great earthquake, the sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, the whole moon turned blood red. Stars fell from the sky, figs dropped from fig trees, and they're just falling everywhere. And the heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up. Every mountain and island was removed from its place. So that's some pretty crazy stuff. Stars are falling out of the sky. I don't know if they're actually going to fall to the earth. Probably not, because one star even getting close to the earth would probably burn it to ashes. But, stars, there's just a bunch of crazy stuff happening. That's what's happening here. Craziness. But it's just. And that's chapter 6. The first 6 seals of the scroll. And the last thing I want to say here is, like I just said, it's just. It's just. We see violence in our world today, and Christians all the time are standing up and saying, no, this is wrong, violence is wrong, stop. But then people try to justify the violence, saying God was violent. God told the Jews to be violent in the Old Testament, but they're just. The Great Flood was completely just. The entire world, except for a few people, descendants of Seth, was wicked and didn't deserve the life that they had. They didn't deserve life at all. And that's the same way today. There's so much wickedness in the world that those wicked people are gonna get what they deserve. And we can't be impatient about it. Just like in the fifth seal, all the tribulation saints are like, oh, when's it gonna happen, Lord? When are you gonna take vengeance? When are you gonna do it? He's like, just wait. Just be patient. It'll happen. We gotta remember that vengeance will happen, but it's also just. We can't commit violence out of unjustness. But God only does violence out of just and out of just. You know what I'm saying. Love you guys. Peace.